Welcome back. Voters in Egypt have overwhelmingly approved the draft constitution in a national referendum boycotted by the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood. According to figures released by the Electoral Commission, more than 90% of voters approved the document. Also in the Ivory Coast, reconciliation talks between the ruling party and the main opposition party are underway in the capital Abidjan. We have more on this and other stories in this CFI News Roundup.
Jean-Louis Robinson, who ran in Madagascar's presidential election, says he will contest the results of the vote. Robinson is calling for a recount and wants voter lists checked in some districts. He's also calling for the disqualification of his rival, Régionary Mampianine, who was named the winner. The Electoral Commission will declare the official results Friday. Robinson says he will plead his cause to regional and African organizations. We are calling on the court not to rush publication of the results tomorrow. Before the results are published, the court must decide on all the appeals that we have submitted. Egyptians voted overwhelmingly to approve a new constitution in a referendum held earlier this week. Official sources say 90% of voters approved the constitution. It won wide support amongst Egyptians who backed the army overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi last July. It is seen as a public vote of confidence in Army Chief General Fattah al-Sisi, who has hinted he will run in the next presidential election. The trial of 4 suspects in Kenya's Westgate Mall massacre opened Wednesday in Nairobi. 4 men are on trial, charged with lending support to the attackers. There are no details of the nature of their alleged support, but sources say the prosecution will argue they helped provide logistical support for the gunmen, including organizing accommodations. All 4 have pleaded not guilty to the charges. Discussions have resumed between the government of Côte d'Ivoire and the Ivorian Popular Front Party, founded by former President Laurent Gbagbo. Following a meeting, the head of the movement, Pascal Afin-Guessan, said the talks were positive. The 2 delegations are to meet again. They say they are determined to find a consensus in order that elections in 2015 be peaceful and credible.
It is now official. Uganda has finally confirmed the deployment of hundreds of its soldiers to South Sudan to bolster the government of President Salva Kiir. Ugandan forces crossed the border early last month following an upsurge of fighting between government forces and rebel soldiers loyal to former Vice President Dr. Riek Machar. But as we hear in the CFI report, some Ugandans have expressed reservations about the army's deployment to another complex conflict.
Undated amateur footage shows a Ugandan army contingent crossing the border into South Sudan, proving the presence of Ugandan troops on South Sudanese soil. Ugandan troops deployed in war-ravaged South Sudan 5 days after fighting began last month, but so far the regime was insisting they were there to help evacuate Ugandan citizens and were not engaged in combat.
Now it is common knowledge that the UPDF is engaged in combat operations, as revealed by the President in Angola. We are operating under a bilateral mandate.
The initial decision to send troops across the border was made without the approval of Parliament, sparking criticism from some lawmakers and prompting a special sitting of the House. The Parliament finally endorsed the government's decision on troop deployment to help President Salva Kiir fight the rebels led by Riek Machar.
It's good that the motion has been passed and that our presence is now has been ascended to by Parliament. I think that will give us more comfort working on the ground.
Securing the commercial road between Juba and Kampala is one of the principal missions of the 1,200 Ugandan soldiers in South Sudan. The army is also considering sending reinforcements, more troops which may change the balance of power on the ground.
We are not capitulationists.
The trial of 4 men accused of murdering the former Prime Minister of Lebanon, Rafik Hariri, has opened in The Hague. The men, all of whom are Hezbollah members, are being tried in absentia following the refusal of the Lebanese militant group to hand them over for trial. Meanwhile, a powerful car bomb has gone off in the Hezbollah stronghold of Hamel, killing and injuring a number of people. We have details in this report by CFI.
4 members of Hezbollah went on trial in absentia at a UN-backed tribunal in The Hague on Thursday. They are accused of murdering former Lebanese Premier Rafik Hariri in a car bombing in Beirut in 2005. The huge blast also killed 22 people and wounded 226. The attack was initially blamed on pro-Syrian Lebanese generals, but later was attributed to members of the Syrian-backed Shiite movement Hezbollah. 2 of the suspects are accused of detonating the bomb, while 2 others supposedly made a fake video claiming responsibility for the attack by a fictional fundamentalist group.
The people of Lebanon have the right to have this trial, to hear the evidence, and to seek the truth. Despite the perpetrators' efforts to conceal their involvement in this attack, the truth leaves its traces.
The investigation is pointing to Syria and Iran, 2 countries which refused to allow the emergence of an independent Sunni leader inside Lebanon. But the real masterminds behind the assassination will not be tried by the UN Special Tribunal.
I don't think the court itself, even if it has a clear verdict, is going to stop other political assassinations, unfortunately, because these have been going on for decades and will continue to go on. And it's not easy to get the UN Security Council to create a court every time there's an assassination.
The war in Syria has taken the spotlight away from the assassinations of Rafik Hariri and journalist Samir Kassir and Gebran Tweni. On Thursday, a suicide attack killed 3 people in the city of Ermel, a bastion of Hezbollah close to the Syrian border. Sectarian tensions continue to run high in Lebanon.
Well, back to our top story. The team and staff of the President's Alternative Treatment Program have been sharing their stories with Grts ahead of the grand celebration slated for tomorrow Friday at the President's Village in Kanilai. The 3-day ceremony is expected to draw a massive crowd in honor of what has been regarded as the single most important breakthrough in the history of herbal medicine. Abdunjai reports.
Have sifted so soon was an understatement, especially when one puts into consideration the lucrative industry the HIV/AIDS virus has come to generate since its discovery. Its complexity compounded modern research for a possible cure, which only surfaced decades later from perhaps the world's smallest countries.
The treatment program started on the 17th of January 2007. I could remember when I was invited by His Excellency to join him. It was really a great day, a day that I'll never forget in my life. When the patients arrived, I could remember seeing them in what we call in medicine critical conditions. So we started the treatment with His Excellency that day. It was around 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 a.m. the treatment started.
And that was infertility?
That was the HIV/AIDS batch. By then you had the late Alaji Mod Sanyang, Mahmoud Toure, Alaji Mahmoud Toure, the cameraman here present today. And then there was another doctor with me that day. It was Dr. Malik Njai. So His Excellency called the first patient, and the patient was then being treated. It's a moment that I think none of us will ever forget in our lives. When the treatment started, I could remember the first patient that was treated had to vomit, and it was excessive vomiting. The patient was clinically very, very weak. Every one of us thought that the patient was going to die, but a smile from His Excellency's face reassured us that we were on the right track and everything was going to be okay. Third day into the treatment, that was the day the blood samples were taken and sent to Dakar for laboratory investigation. The results, they came, I got the results 2 days after. By then I was in Kanilai. I had a call from the laboratory technician that the results were out. So I asked him what was the outcome. He told me that everything is